Hello everyone, welcome to today's Science and Innovation Chat.
My project was about developing strategies and guidelines for heat stress prevention among farmers. These are, the vulnerable group of people affected by climate change. First, from the foundation, I had to find out the background, whether or not climate change is even happening in Zambia. Maybe we're not being affected, whether or not people's health has been affected, and then are farmers actually being affected, and do they even know they're affected, and things like that. All those questions had to be addressed somehow.
Hello, Anayawa. Thank you for coming to our Science and Innovation Spotlight session. Would you want to tell us more about yourself?
Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is 𝗖𝗛𝗜𝗠𝗔𝗧𝗘, and I consider myself a researcher or a research scientist or scientist. I have a PhD in medical sciences from University of Antwerp in Belgium. So my background is mostly public health, although I've done research in many different areas still related to healthcare.
So would you want to tell us also a bit about your work background, what you are doing currently?
I got a position as a postdoc looking at climate change and heat stress among farmers in Zambia. So my study was divided into, say, 3 or 4 parts. The first part was looking more at historical data, the weather readings for the past 30 years. For it to be climate change, I have to look at 30 years. So I looked at the temperature changes over the past few decades to see if there's anything there, if there was an increase, like we're seeing in literature, or if there isn't an increase or not. And unfortunately, sometimes you cannot find all the readings available, so there were some gaps in that data. And then the other part was looking at health, the statistics. Are there any health conditions, in particular those ones related to heat or sun exposure, that would have been increasing over time? So I was lucky enough to find some data on the cancers and also on heat rashes and other heat exposure illnesses, although they're not really heat stress illnesses. I'll put it that way, because heat stress has to affect the heat, the environment should affect the health of the person in terms of the heat and be able to regulate the body. Now, the other illnesses are more just about sun exposure, which are not necessarily heat illnesses. So when it came to heat, it was really just heat rashes, which were really increasing over time. However, again, there was missing data. Where you find maybe in the 80s there was nothing reported, and then suddenly the 2000s or something, then it ends maybe 2015 or 2016 somewhere, and the data finishes. But still, there was a general increasing trend. So that was the general view there. And then the next part, I would say, is now the actual community work, meeting with the farmers. I had 2 study sites. One of them was in southern province, Zambia. That is in 𝗟𝗓𝗓 district. The other one was Western Province, Zambia, that is 𝗖𝗟𝗜𝗠𝗠 district. The difference between these 2 areas is that 𝗟𝗓𝗓 is not as hot as 𝗖𝗟𝗓𝗓, if I put it that way. So you find that there are more hot days and higher temperatures in 𝗖𝗟𝗓𝗓 than there are in 𝗟𝗓𝗓. And also the rainfall pattern is slightly lower in 𝗖𝗟𝗓𝗓 than in 𝗟𝗓𝗓 because of the location and the altitude as well. 𝗖𝗟𝗓𝗓's got more lower lands than 𝗟𝗓𝗓 as well. So, meeting with the farmers in these communities, I had group discussions, but not just those discussions. We used participatory rural appraisal tools, 3 of them to be exact. That is the calendar tool, the Venn diagram, and the resource map.
Okay.
This was, I think, a more interesting way of discussing with people instead of the usual just sit down and have questions and talk. They were more interactive. They were the ones actually writing on the poster papers we had and giving their feedback, and also more open to discuss in that way than just sitting down and asking questions as a discussion. So the calendar tool, they explained throughout the year what sort of activities they undertake, when it's raining, when it's not raining, when they can make more money, when they don't make as much money, when it's hot, when it's not so hot, things like that. So from these discussions, we gained a lot of valuable insight into people and their lifestyle and climate change as well, how it's affecting them and their livelihood in general.
Sure.
So you are using these devices.
Oh.
I have like 10 of them. So we distributed around the different communities. And 5 in 𝗖𝗟𝗜𝗠𝗠 and 5 in 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗡, divided the districts into 5 regions. And then each region, at least, they were taking these measurements. I've trained a few farmers because they didn't want to do the work, one of them, for the whole full time period of 3 months, because we picked like the hotter months of the year, September, October, November, which is like before our supposed rain season. So they have to prepare the land during that time before they actually start growing the crops, because we have grain-fed agriculture in the country. The next part was now more of a social justice issue. We're looking at these communities and how are they really involved in, say, community programs and projects happening there. Because rural areas are blessed in that they have a number of NGOs and organizations that go to provide them with services. This could be maybe starting initiatives that look at climate smart agriculture, where they're training the farmers on how to do these new methods, or whether they provide them with alternative farming methods, like say promoting the keeping of goats, since the poor rainfall patterns, so they're trying to diversify their their production and things like that. So the idea with that was to find out whether the farmers are really benefiting from these programs and whether they're really working out for them, whether it's really helping them in any way. In 𝗖𝗟𝗜𝗠𝗠 in particular, there was a lot of talk about timber production, because apparently the region is full of these lovely, beautiful rosewood trees and antique as well, and some others. So they complained about deforestation, because talking about climate change, we also talk about some things that can cause climate change. Yeah. And then, of course, deforestation comes into play. And we did have a session where we actually used photographs to explain aspects of climate change, showing them different impacts climate change can have on the environment. And then through those photo discussions, some of those issues came up, that look, you've got a lot of deforestation in the community. And for instance, in one farm was like in my community, because of deforestation, we're no longer able to monitor the weather as we used to in the past. Because in the past, if maybe some certain fruits grow, then you know that it's time for the rains to come. Or if they don't grow, then you know that it will not rain this year, or the rain season will be this short, things like that. But because of that change in the environment, the cutting down of the trees, those flowers don't blossom the way they used to. So those are indicators no longer there anymore. So those are some interesting things that came out of the discussions. And then in 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗡, there was also the aspect of deforestation that was brought up there as well. But in this case, it was more in the sense of charcoal production. 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗡 is situated in a very nice location in the southern province, because it's right on the road route towards Lusaka, which is the capital city, and so they got a large market upwards in Lusaka. So I think a number of African countries have been going through load shedding.
Yeah.
Where you have times where there's just no power. I don't know what caused it. It's also another climate change issue, who knows? But yes, so load shedding. And because of load shedding, we now have to resort to other forms of energy, because people need to eat. So the more easy accessible source is charcoal, which comes from trees. So that means cutting down trees, especially for those who do not practice just cutting down the branches of the trees. Then they cut down the whole tree, produce charcoal, go to the roadside, and then sell it along the highway going all the way to Lusaka. And that's good money. Of course, some farmers were saying that it's not even them that do the actual cutting. Yeah, so we had some heated discussions where farmers are actually telling the research team off that, look, you're the ones who come. If you were not buying charcoal, we wouldn't be making charcoal. We wouldn't be making charcoal from our trees, causing deforestation. Before coming to a research study, you write a proposal where you got your idea of what sort of outcomes you're going to have. I was like, okay, I'm going to do heat stress. And I know that these areas, of course, they don't have running water taps and things like that. So I know the problem is going to be water access. Yeah. It was a problem, yes. There was lack of access to water. Western province, or 𝗖𝗟𝗜𝗠𝗠𝗠, the issue was there is the Zambezi River. So it's a very beautiful place, Ladies River. But there are crocodiles in that river, and not all farming communities are near the river for them to get the water to use for their farming. So accessing that water is not easy. So they do make traditional wells within some of the communities, able to dig shallow wells, and then they use that sometimes for water, because water is one of the things you need to drink, especially if you're trying to deal with heat stress. Monze, they don't have the luxury of Zambezi River, but even there was water issues. The water tables, they're pretty low, so they have to go pretty deep down if it means drilling a borehole in Monze. So they have that challenge. However, as much as I was right about that factor when I was writing my proposal, the farmers themselves, now look at social justice in this case, the farmers themselves were saying, you know what, we want to plant more trees. And I was like, oh, really? Like, yes. I mean, if you teach us the skills on how to plant trees, in Monze, there are like, in some communities, there were some groups that came to discuss with them on the basic principles of planting, how to get seeds from trees, cultivate them and plant them so that they can have, really good orchards, or just repopulate the failing, population of trees by reforestation and afforestation practices. And others were interested in learning about how to do that. So they were like, I mean, if we could have such programs, we could dedicate ourselves to doing that. We'll plant the trees perhaps near the rainy seasons, at least they're irrigated during the times of the rain, and we continue pouring water there. Although still we'll have issues pouring water and also protecting them from our livestock, because we have to cover them. I don't know if you know the traditional way of putting the sticks around the plants. You have the plant here and then you put the sticks around, so at least it protects them from.
We hope you enjoy watching this short conversation on climate change heat stress.